Wagwan, what a guan. It's your girl Tash. To all my subscribers, big up on yourself, one love. In this video, I'll be demonstrating to you guys how to make the all back cornrows on very short hair like this, which is only 2 centimeters long in length, but the hair texture is very kinky, which will give me a more firmer grip. And I'm going to try my best to talk you guys through this process and to answer a few of my most frequently asked questions. So let's just dive straight into this. I have chosen to record at this angle because I want you guys to see what my fingers are doing, so you can see clearly what fingers are doing what. And as you can see, I am mostly using my thumbs, my index fingers, and my middle fingers to grip up the short area. So when it comes to braiding on any length of hair, it is usually your thumbs and index fingers that does most of the gripping. But for me, braiding on very short hair like this, my middle fingers are the ones that does most of the work. And I didn't realize how much pressure I put on my middle fingers when braiding on very short hair like this until I slammed my finger in my car door just the other day. And the pain that I felt just trying to grip on short hair like this was mad sick and crazy. Me I tell you say, me feel a piece of pain there, see man. And that's when I realized that my middle fingers are the ones doing most of the gripping when it comes to braiding on very short hair like this. So before we go any further, let's just talk about the composition and balance when trying to make the braids look straight and neat and equal in size and density on both sides. So as you can see, my first braid that I did, I parted that just lining up with the corner of the eye, and then the next braid I'm about to make is gonna line up just above the edge of the eyebrow. So to braid on very short hair like this, you need to put a lot of pressure on your thumbs and index fingers and your middle fingers especially, which is a very difficult task. So I do encourage braiders who wants to master this skill to get their nails cut down very short. You don't have to cut it as low as my nails, but I wouldn't recommend long nails because it can be very damaging to the client's scalp if you try to do this with long nails. I mean that long nails can be very damaging to the hair follicles, and I'm gonna explain more about that later on in the video. So the reason I don't blow dry the hair before braiding is that when the hair is kinky, it makes my grip even more firmer and it holds the cornrows better. So when you straighten your hair or blow dry your hair out, the hair looks like it's longer, but you don't actually have a longer length of hair, if it makes sense to you, because our hair texture is kinky but it stretches, so there's a stretch inside of it. So whether the hair is straightened out or not, once you start braiding, you're gonna feel that stretch in the hair. You're gonna feel the hair stretching once you start braiding. So blow drying the hair and making it look straight is not giving you any more length, if that makes sense to you. It's not making the hair longer, it just makes the hair look longer. But once you start braiding, you're getting the same length of hair once you start braiding. So for me, once I start braiding the hair, whether it's kinky or straight, I'm gripping the same length. So with kinky hair like this, I find that when you don't straighten it, it's easier to grip. And that's just for me. When the hair is straight, it's more slippery for me to braid. And back to the straightening of the hair and the blow drying of the hair and how unhealthy that is. Guys, it is very unnecessary to apply those heat to your hair thinking that your hair is gonna get longer or it's gonna be longer. No, it only looks longer. It only looks like that. But once you start to sweat or any moisture touches your hair, your Afro kinky hair is going back to its original texture. I'm telling you that for certain. And if you want to make your strands more straight permanently, you would have to use chemical to do that, which is going to lead to permanent damage. I'm not just talking about permanent damage of your Afro kinky hair. I'm talking about permanent damage of your hair follicles, which is unrepairable sometimes. So guys, as you can see, right now I'm using all of my fingers to grip. So all of my fingers are doing something. They're all at work. So the third braid, as you can see, is in the what you call the peak. So I line up my third braid in the peak there. So that's the position of my third braid. And I usually put a center part just as a guideline, but I completely forgot that I'm recording and I'm making a tutorial. So I just started braiding from the side because I'm so used to this. I know exactly where to part the hair. I know where the positions of the cornrows is going to be, whether I'm making 6 braids or 4 braids or 8 braids. But in this case, I'm going to be making 6 braids on each side. So in total, I'm going to have 12 braids. So for me, I know exactly where to part. But if you're a beginner and you haven't seen any of my tutorials before, I will definitely leave some links that you can go and check out where I actually did the center part and I show you guys how to make your braids equal on both sides with that center part. So I will leave those links below for you to check it out. So guys, as you can see, I'm not just gripping with my thumb and my index finger. You know, my middle finger is burning me. My middle finger is doing a lot of work. It might not look like it, but trust me, that middle finger is at work. And I'm using most of my fingers, whether it's to pull the hair in from the side into my braids, all of my fingers are contributing to something. So my fourth braid is just right there in the peak of the hairline. So when it comes to all back cornrows, you know, the size that you start with at the hairline is gonna be a different size that you're gonna finish with at the back of the head. So with the all back cornrows, you start with one density at the front, and as you go backwards with the cornrow, your parting becomes a little thicker. And I don't know if you can notice because the braids are so thin at the moment, so you might not notice that the parting got a little bit thicker in the middle, and then as we go down to the back, the parting get a little bit thinner. So the density that you start with at the front of the hairline is a different density that you're gonna finish with at the back of the hairline. And the reason for this is because your hairline is much wider than the back of the neck where the hair finishes. So in order to finish all your braids at the back in a good position, because you don't want some of them finishing at the top and then some is all the way down, and you know, it just looks horrible there at the back. So you want everything to go all the way down to the back, and you want them to fit in that small space. So that's why you start the braid off with one density. So when you're starting the braid off, you're mostly focusing on the composition of how the braids are gonna look at the front. And as you're getting down to the middle now of the head, that's a very wide area. So your braids are gonna get a little bit thicker there in the middle, and then as you get down to the end, the braids are gonna get very thin. So it's not obvious because it's not supposed to be obvious. The whole reason for, you know, the composition and the balance is so that when you look at the cornrows, they just look straight all the way back with the same density, but it's not actually the same density in reality. It's just an illusion. once you get the composition and the balance correct, everything just look correct, everything just look equal, which is what we want it to look. We want it to look equal, even though it's not equal in reality. So when achieving 12 braids, you want to have 6 on one side and 6 on the other side in an equal position. So as you can see, so first braid is lining up with the corner of the eye, and then the second braid is just at the start of the eyebrow, and then the third braid and the fourth braid is in the peak of the hairline, which is just above your eyebrow. And the fourth braid is going to line up with the start of your eyebrow, and then your sixth braid is the center part. So you all know that the center part is in between the eyebrows. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to leave the center part for later, and then I'm going to make another 5 braids on the left side, and I'll leave those 2 last braid in the center at the end, so you guys can see how I center the part. So one of my most frequently asked questions is how I learned to braid on very, very short hair like this. And the answer to that is that I don't know how I learned to do it. It was just something that came to me naturally. And I started braiding when I was about 7 or 8. And I practiced a lot on my grandmother because her hair was very short and patchy at the time. And the reason I know how to mix different hair products that can actually make your hair grow in a healthy way is because growing up as a child in Jamaica, I couldn't afford certain things. So I had to learn how to make my own oils from coconut, olives, rosemary, any little plants that you can think of. I had to learn how to do that. And in my era, growing up in Jamaica, we didn't have social media, we didn't have internet. As a matter of fact, the community that I grew up in, we didn't even have electricity. So a lot of my knowledge came from poverty. It's things that were passed down to me from the older generation. I used to watch all my uncles and aunties, how they used to grate the coconut, squeeze out the milk, and then they'll put it to a boil, and then they will skim off the frosting on the top, and they will fry that, and that turned into oil. And we used to use that oil not just for cooking, but we used to use that oil for our skincare as well, and we used to use that oil also for our hair care. So growing up in Jamaica, I learned so much about how to make aloe vera. So for you guys, the name of the plant is aloe vera, but for us in Jamaica, the name of the plant was Cinco Bible. And I was very confused for a long time about the difference between aloe vera and Cinco Bible. And I learned later on that it's the same plant, or maybe of the same nature. So if I'm wrong, wanna please let me know in the comment section below. I know say a lot of old-fashioned Jamaican might still have a different concept to this, but for me, we used to use Cinco Bible for a lot of things. I didn't know this plant as aloe vera until I came to the UK. People start calling this plant aloe vera, and in my head I'm like, wait, but that's a Cinco Bible plant from Jamaica that I used to use to put on my skin, whether there's a rash or I have a cut or something, and it will heal the skin. But anyways guys, back to my story on how I did actually learn to braid. So growing up in Jamaica in the 80s, we didn't have a lot of things. So even when it comes to hair salon, there wasn't a lot of that in our community. I mean, it wasn't needed because we were all braiding each other's hair in the yard, and that usually happens every Sunday. So every Sunday is hair day. We wash each other hair and we comb each other hair. So it's usually my older cousins that would be doing the braiding. So I just used to watch them braid. And when it was my turn to braid, they didn't have much confidence inside of me because they were looking at me like, you know, she's young, she's not ready. But when I finally got the chance to braid on one of my cousins here, and she was older than me. I gripped it so well, and she was so shocked. Like, everybody was looking like, how did you do that? And I was like, I just did what I saw you guys doing. And she was like, we didn't do that. Because I catch all the little baby hairs at the front, all the little short hair at the front and around the side of the head. I picked them all into the cornrows. And my cousin, they were so surprised and so shocked, like, how did you do that? And even up to this day, they're still not able to do it. When I go back home, I am still that main hairdresser. I am still that famous hairdresser in the community. Like, everybody want me to do their hair, and I'm like, I'm on vacation. I don't want to spend my vacation cornrowing here. I want to just enjoy my vacation. But for me, going back home is a very happy moment for everybody. They're like, oh yes, me can get her to catch up them look here and help me grow back my hair. So everybody, all my cousins, all my aunties, everybody's waiting for me to come so that I can catch up the little hair them. So, you know, going back to Jamaica for me is not just a vacation. You know, it's spending time with family and catching back up with the past. I love going back home, but I said the next time I go home, I'm just gonna live like a tourist and stay in one of them all-inclusive hotel far away from my family, so I can just enjoy my holiday in peace. Because me I tell you, whenever I go around family, I always have to comb here, which is nice sometimes, but I mean sometimes you just want to enjoy your holiday in a peace. Same way. So anyways, I have tried to teach adults how to grip on very short hair, and it's been the most difficult task because they feel a lot of pain inside their fingers, which is quite normal if you're just starting out. So I remembered I started braiding around 7 or 8 when my fingers were very small and young, and you know, they're still developing. So that's where I now got the idea that I'm gonna start teaching just children. So I'm going to be having after school braiding club where I teach children how to braid on very short hair because their fingers are small. So if I can teach them from a young age, say from 10 years old, at least, maybe not as young as when I started, but maybe from 10 years old, then those muscles will develop over time. And by the time they get to like 15, 16, they won't feel that pain anymore, because that was my experience. You know, I was doing it from young. I can't remember if it hurt or not. I know that over time I did get better at gripping, and I don't feel much pain when I'm doing it. So I reckon I start teaching children at a young age so that they can build up those muscles in their fingers as they go along. I'm not saying that adults won't be able to do this, but it's a process. You have to go through that pain in your fingers before you can get to the perfection of braiding on very short hair like this. So let's go back to the fingernail conversation. As you can see, guys, my fingernails are very, very short because I know what my fingers are doing. And if ever my fingernails get long, that's when I start to feel that pain in my fingers and in my fingernails as well when I grip on very short hair. Because it's just a pressure that you're putting on your fingers when you're trying to grip those hair. If you have long nails, it will damage your fingernails and you will feel a lot of pain in your fingers, and it's also damaging to the client's follicles. So I see a lot of braiders on social media with very long nails, and I must admit that they do a very, very good job, especially when it comes to making stitch braids with those long nails. It looks neat and everything, but as a hair care specialist, I must say that those long nails are damaging the follicles. Yes, the hair looks neat and everything, but those long nails are damaging the hair follicles. Every time those braiders dig into the hair and those nails are touching the scalp, those you are damaging the follicles each time you do that. And it must be so uncomfortable for the client as well. You know, I know some people, they just want their hair to look sleek and they want their hair to look nice. They don't care how much punching the braiders' nails are punching their scalp and how much is burning when they walk away. They just want that sleek look to make their Snapchats and their TikToks, and everybody knows it's just all about social media, and they want to look good and they want to look sleek, and everybody want to do what is trending. But in the long run, guys, not just the fact that you guys have to straighten out the hair to make your stitch braids look sleek, it's the fact that every time the braider touches your follicles with their long nails, it's damaging your hair over time. And I suppose over time you guys know that for yourself, but you still want your hair to look sleek anyway, so you continue to do that. So I definitely advise against long nails on short hair, because with the shorter hair you're gonna have to put more pressure on that, and that's not very good at all. That's very, very damaging, not just to your fingers, as I said, but it's damaging to the client's hair follicles. So anyways, guys, please remember that my YouTube channel is just for tutorials. I don't show a lot of my clients' hair growth reviews on the YouTube channel, because a lot of my clients don't even want to show their face on camera. So a lot of my before and after pictures are documented on my Instagram page, and my Facebook page, and on my TikTok page as well. But with the TikTok, as you know, it's just, I can only create videos. So with it, on the TikTok you will on the TikTok you will see videos, before and after videos on my clients. So if you want to see the before and after photographs and the hair growth result, please jump onto the Instagram and the Facebook. So all my platform has the same name, Speeches Hairstyles. So just type in Speeches Hairstyles on any platform just to see my pages. So also I do give updates, a lot of updates on my Instagram and my Facebook, you know, with any changes to my products or any changes to my services. Is all documented on Instagram or Facebook. So I recommend that you guys follow if you're on social media. If you're not on social media, you can also check out my YouTube community post, because I sometimes post important information on my community post here on YouTube as well. So now we are on the center part. So I'm just straightening up that line in between the eyebrows and making sure that it's pointed down to the nose as well, exactly in the center. And as you can see, I did a very good job without that guideline, because now I have 2 equal sections on both sides and a perfect center part. So as you can see, guys, I'm very, very used to doing this. So whether I have that center part or not to begin with, I just know exactly where to position my cornrows as I go along. So you can also follow those positions where I position the cornrows. I mean, it's gonna be different depending on the amount of braids that you're making on each side of the head. So I do have tutorials on everything. So I have tutorials on 2 braids, I have tutorials on 4 braids, 5 braids, 6 braids, 8 braids, 10 braids, you name it. I've got tutorials on that. So I will leave a few links below for you guys, or you can just check out my playlist that says short hairstyles. So that's where you will see all the short hairstyles and a different number of braids that I have done. So usually when I start a tutorial, I always start my tutorial with a center part if I'm going backwards, or whether I'm going down to the side. But if I'm going down to the side, I'm going to need a center part anyways. But I usually start my tutorials off with a center part just to show you guys how to achieve that center part on different hairlines as well. So with different hairlines, trying to achieve that center part can be very, very difficult. I mean, with hairlines that has, I find that the hairline them that have the peak, I'm not talking about like widow's peak hairline that goes all the way in, but at least it has a little peak, like a little shape to it. So hairlines that has a more detailed shape, it's very easy to find the center part. But with hairlines that don't really have that much detail, it's very, very difficult. So it all depends on the person's head shape and their hairline when it comes to finding that perfect center part, and that's the reason why I prefer to make some of the braids on the right hand side and some of the braids on the left hand side before making those 2 braids at the top. So I always leave those 2 braids until the end so that, you know, I can better perfect them there at the top. So when you do leave those 2 braids for last at the top, it can be also easier to find the center part as well when you leave those 2 braids at the top, and at least, you know, both of them will look equal. And that just pull off the whole hairstyle and make the whole hairstyle just look good and equal and everything. So guys, this is one of my longest voiceover in history, and I just decided that, listen, I'm just gonna talk you guys through this. Some people don't like the bag of talking like me. Like, I prefer just to demonstrate because I am a visual learner, but I'm trying to consider other people who are not visual learners, and even though they can see what's going on, they still want, or they just still prefer you to talk over what's going on. So some of you is gonna be annoyed by the voiceover, and then some of you are gonna appreciate it. So if you do appreciate my time and my effort in trying to voice this video over for you, please drop a comment below and show your appreciation. Thank you guys so much for watching. One love.
Crumbs Beat Store.